You are welcome here no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter your background. You are welcome here to join us as we proclaim worth in our spiritual journey. Today we celebrate the Festival of Lights, Hanukkah. In the words of Rabbi Yael Levy, as we light the first candle and enter the Festival of Hanukkah, we give thanks for arriving to this moment, and we acknowledge the blessings and challenges of the past year. In the radiance of the first light, we give thanks for moments of connection, awareness, kindness, and love. And we also honor the experiences of disappointment, sadness, and pain. As Hanukkah begins, we rededicate ourselves to looking at the world with eyes of wonder and awe. We rededicate ourselves to noticing the blessings and lifting up the good. We do this not to deny hardship, but rather to strengthen ourselves and enhance our capacity to bring goodness to the world. On this first night of Hanukkah, we join with the psalmist in saying, "Open my eyes that I might see the wonders of the unfolding path," from Psalm 119, verse 18. So just take a moment at this time to put your electronic devices in worship mode. It is good we gather together. We will now have the prelude.
So that you can participate in the prelude, it's a song about Hanukkah, of course, and it has some motions to it, and the choir will sing it, and we'll have someone help you with the motions. But just to review quickly for you, when we sing about the window, we'll draw the window. So let's all draw the window. Where you can see the glow of the menorah. Here are the 8 candles, the shamus in the middle, on newly fallen snow. I will light just one little candle on this, the first night of Hanukkah.
And we'll do it more.
And by the time we get to the 8th verse, you may know it.
Opening words this morning are from Amanda Eudes Kessler, a writer, songwriter, and musician. We light the Hanukkah candles in wonder and joy and gratitude, each candle a miracle. When the Holy Temple was rededicated at the time of the Maccabean liberation battle, only 1 day's worth of oil remained, yet it burned for 8 days, so we light candles in remembrance. We rededicate ourselves to the miracle of light in the season of darkness, to the miracle of trust in a time of anxiety, to the miracle of hope in a time of despair, to the miracle of faith in a time of cynicism. We rededicate ourselves to the miracle of wholeness in a time of fracture, to the miracle of courage in a time of fear, to the miracle of resistance in a time of oppression, to the miracle of peace in a time of violence, and in a time of hatred, we rededicate ourselves to the miracle of love.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I am Dan Lambert, and I serve this congregation as the minister. And it is so great to see everyone here. Thank you for battling our terrible elements of clouds and rain here in South Florida. And for those of us who are used to snow and blizzards and 20 degrees from up north, this is pretty terrible, but it still feels like, the weather outside is frightful, but inside it's so delightful. And when you really no place to go, come and celebrate with us. It doesn't rhyme, but it works. So. As we begin this morning, we light the chalice, which is the symbolism of Unitarian Universalists everywhere, and it's our reminder of so many of our core values of peace and love and hope, especially this time during the year. As we light the chalice together, let's recite the affirmation, the words of which you'll find in the order of service together. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We'd like to extend an especially great welcome to those of you who are visitors with us today. It's always nice to have both first-time visitors and snowbirds or others who have been away for a while. And we'd like to give you a chance to stand and introduce yourself, if you don't mind. So we invite you at this time, if you're new or if you're a visitor, or if you haven't been here in a while, to stand, share your name, where you're from, and why you've decided to visit us this morning so that we can say a hearty hello to you. Is there anybody that would like to stand and say hello? Now, I'm not sure that forcing someone to raise their hand counts, because when you get voluntold something, then you get to volunteer something yourself.
It's okay, I'm an actor, I'll talk loud.
Yeah, please. We have, thanks.
Hi, my name is Christopher Johnson. I am the youngest son of Chet and Ruth Johnson, visiting members from a church in Shawnee Mission, Kansas. I come to you from 3,000 miles away in Ashland, Oregon. And I am delighted to be here with you. Thank you.
Great to have you. Welcome.
Feeling blessed to be here after the 12-hour drive from Atlanta, Georgia. We saw everybody from every state on the freeway. It was awesome. So we're blessed to be here. My husband is one of 11 children. He is from Fort Myers, and we're Unitarian Universalists in Atlanta, Georgia. So great to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. So nice to have you.
I'm Bruce Langston, and this is Patty.
Hi, my name's Olivia. I'm here visiting family, my mom, and I brought my boyfriend. This is Jakai. He's new. He's never been to a Unitarian Universalist church before. Do you want to say your favorite color or something? Blue. And yeah, happy to be here. So hi.
Wonderful. Nice to have you. Jessica Kai, please don't be scared. We were all new once ourselves, so it's all good.
Hi, I'm Lorraine. I sister in Tulsa, Oklahoma, encouraged me to come to this church because she's a member of her church there.
Wonderful. So nice to have you. Thanks, Jamie. Anybody else would like to say hello to us this morning? Well, we're certainly glad to have all of you here, and we'd just like to point out that after the service, we do have a social hour with some coffee and water and some snacks, and we invite you to hang out for a little while and get to know us some and chat and just learn a little bit about who we are. So please hang out for our social hour afterwards. As we continue our service this morning, let's sing hymn number 221, Light One Candle, as we continue learning and celebrating Hanukkah. We invite you to stand and body your spirit as we sing this morning, number 221. In case you didn't know, that song was written by Peter Yarrow of Peter Polinaire. So yeah, that's kind of a fun trivia piece. At this point, we're going to have a little ceremony of lighting the menorah candle so we can learn and see how that's done.
And I am going to totally mess up Rev Dan by changing the people who are lighting the candle.
No, not that.
Lawrence, Alan, Lisa, come on up. We have a blessing of menorahs today.
Kay is going to light the first candle. We call that the shamash. He's like the leader, and we always light him first. Are you like just light it again? And Theoretically, tonight, we are only light one candle because it's the first night of Hanukkah, and every night we'll increase it. But just for today, we're gonna light them all because we want you to see how beautiful it looks when they're all lit, okay? So she's gonna light each one in order. I just wanna say something about the menorah before they light. You can have a menorah of any kind. As you see, we have some really beautiful ones here that people have brought in, and the only thing you need for a menorah is the candles sort of in a line and one a little higher, and that's the leader one. So you'll see a variety of them here and elsewhere too. I'm going to say 3 prayers that we do when we light the candles. We only light 2. The first night, which is tonight, we light the 3rd one. We say the 3rd one, okay? So tonight you get 3 prayers. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shanu b'mitzvah v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah. And then it's, blessed O Lord our God, who has made us holy with your mitzvah, with your blessings, and commanded us to light the Hanukkah lights. That's what we say. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Yosa nisim lavoteinu bayomim oheim b'hazman hazeh. Blessed art you, O Lord our God, the ruler of the world, who wrought wonders for our ancestors in times long gone for this time of the year. And the first night of Hanukkah, we're going to add this one. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehianu v'hikimanu lahazman hazeh. Blessed art you, eternal one, our God, sovereign of the world, who gave us life, who keeps us strong, and brings us to this time so we can be together here. Amen. Feel it? Thank you.
In a mood of prayer and meditation, we now read from the Book of Life. Each Sunday before the service begins, you may add joys or sorrows, both large and small, to be read from this, our Book of Life, during the service. The book is on the table, which you'll find just inside the door in the back of the sanctuary, and you can write in it at any time. In our tradition, we revere the living of our lives as sacred endeavors, believing that the joys and the sorrows we experience hallow the living of our days. This morning we have one entry, which is a sorrow to share, unfortunately. Samara's father died on Thursday afternoon this past week. She received word on Wednesday morning that he was in ICU, and she was able to fly up to New York immediately to be by his side that afternoon. This will be quite hard on her. She was quite the daddy's girl. They spoke on the phone every night. Please keep her in your loving thoughts in this time of sorrow. The service for him is today, and Samara will be returning Tuesday evening. And I received this note from Samara to share a couple days ago. Arthur Michelson died on Thursday. Many of you met him last year when he came down to attend her 60th birthday party from New York, and when he came to attend the racial monologues in March. He was just that kind of dad, still supporting his kids by coming to their birthday parties and performances. What an amazing, funny, generous, and kind man this world has lost. Peace be on Samara and her family. At this time, we invite you to enter a moment into a silence to acknowledge the joys and the sorrows, the highs and the lows, the celebrations and challenges that life has shared with you in the past several days. After this moment of silence, after a minute, when you hear the music play, you're invited to come forward to the table here on my right and your left, take a stone, pause for a moment, and drop the stone in the bowl that also has water. This is a chance for you to share your joys, to release your concerns and your burdens, to the universe in an important and symbolic way. So let's have a moment of silence, and when you hear the music play, then we're all invited to come forward and to share with the stone. Let's have a moment of silence. Thankful for the breadth of our community, let us endeavor to support one another in all times and in all seasons. May this congregation ever be a harbor for the heart and a sanctuary for the soul. Amen. As we continue to celebrate Hanukkah, let's sing another hymn, number 222. You can remain seated for this if you'd like, or stand if you want. We free, we get to do what we want around here. And I've been trying to work on pronouncing the title for this. And when you can't say the title right, you're wondering what other words you're not going to be able to say right. Mi Yamalel. So let's sing number 222. In English. We're doing it in English? Yeah. Well, what's it in English? That would have been so much easier for me.
Since we have congregants who are of Hebrew descent or Jewish, feel free to sing the Hebrew part, but we're going to sing in English because our Hebrew is not great. So I'm going to play it through as it will be played. Now, notice that first section, the first two scores, we'll be singing that twice. So in the introduction, you'll hear it twice. It's going to be a long introduction, but in case you don't know the piece, it'll give you a chance to hear it one time. And feel free to sing the Hebrew if you can.
The offering today is from the oil in the chalice by UU minister, retired Reverend John Saxon. The light of our chalice would soon flicker and die without the oil that nourishes its flame. And just as this flame cannot burn without oil, this religious community cannot survive or thrive without the financial as well as personal support of its members and friends. The oil that keeps the flame of our liberal religious faith alive and fuels the shared mission and ministry of this fellowship. Let us now give freely and generously an offering to sustain and strengthen our shared religious community, a community of hope, faith, and love. For we are now the keepers of this flame that burns for justice. Its dream of beloved community is a vision of a world made whole. If you are visiting us for the first time today, please do not feel obligated to give. Your presence is gift enough.
Anybody expecting visitors? Oh, excellent. entirely awkward and inappropriate for me to do anything like that, which I would never do. So, this has been such a great service so far. We've learned a lot. We've sung a bunch of songs we don't understand. Kay was singing in Hebrew, and I was trying to follow along in English, and I was super confused, even more than normal. And this has been such a great month because we're doing this series on winter holidays and celebrations. And there are so many, as we've talked about all month long. We have an unusually high number of holidays and celebrations and special events this year. We've talked about Bodhi Day. We've just experienced the Geminid meteor shower. Festivus, of course, because we have the Festivus poll, and I have a lot of problem with you people. If you're not Seinfeld's fans, you don't know anything about what I'm talking about. St. Nicholas Day, the winter solstice, which of course was yesterday. Hanukkah, which we're talking about today. Yule, we talked about last week. Christmas is coming up this week. The new moon, I think, is Tuesday night. This week, National Humbug Day was yesterday, in case you missed that. Boxing Day is coming up this week. The Zoroastrians celebrate Zarathustra Day, which is the death of Zoroaster, actually not the birth, which is an interesting backwards way to do it, but that's how they do things. The Hindus celebrate Pancha Janapati. Saturnalia, of course, is this week. The Human Light Day, which is celebrated by humanists. Kwanzaa, we'll talk about next week. Pastafarians have their own day this week as well that they celebrate, and many, many others. There's a lot of special things going on during December, and it's great as you used to be able to not just talk about them and learn about them, but to celebrate the variety of understandings and religions and societies and cultures and events that we can all learn from. That is the unique advantage we have as Unitarian Universalists. Today, as we talk about Hanukkah a little bit more, I want to point out that Hanukkah is not the Jewish Christmas. It's not the same thing. And I get tired of people saying that. Oh, we can say Merry Christmas because, the Jews have Hanukkah, but the Hanukkah is just Christmas for the Jews. No, that's not the case at all. Jews in every society have had trouble for centuries and centuries and centuries, not just having their culture respected, but even just living life from day to day. I learned something today listening to NPR on the way in about crypto Jews. Have you ever heard this term before? Crypto Jews. These are people who have a Jewish heritage, but they live underground in their culture or in their background because they're in a culture or society where they're not accepted. In this particular context on NPR this morning, they were talking about Cubans who are Hispanic who have a Jewish heritage. They were forced to convert hundreds of years ago during the Spanish Inquisition and have lived underground as crypto Jews ever since. And many of those Hispanics with Jewish heritage don't even find out about it until later in life. They had a guest on the show this morning who talked about when her grandmother died, she was given a special box that is a family secret that's handed down from grandmother to granddaughter, every other generation. And inside this box is proof of their Jewish heritage with the Star of David and stories. So this goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. Anti-Semitism is still the most common social ill. It's the most common racial discrimination that we have in America. More people are victims of this hate crime in the United States than any other hate crime by far. And so for us to take some time to honor Hanukkah, to learn about it, to light menorahs, to experience the songs, and to have a little bit of time to understand the story that goes along with Hanukkah is an important part of our Unitarian Universalist heritage as well. Hanukkah itself, as we've heard a little bit about, is the Jewish 8-day wintertime festival of lights, as it's often called. It's celebrated with a nightly menorah lighting, special prayers, and fried food. Why fried food? Well, we're going to talk about that in a few moments. Have you noticed that every one of the celebrations or holidays we've talked about is closely tied to food and eating and parties. There's something about our human nature that we understand the importance of that. The Hebrew word Hanukkah, sometimes more gutturally Hanukkah, if you had learned how to say the Hebrew, it's a transliteration of a Hebrew word rather than a translation. And it sometimes can be difficult to understand the exact meaning from the Hebrew, but basically it's about dedication, is the idea. And it's thus named because it celebrates the rededication of the Holy Temple after the victory of the Maccabees. In the 2nd century BCE, the Holy Land was ruled by Seleucids. These were Syrian Greeks who tried to force the people of Israel to accept the Greek culture, to worship their gods, and to change their beliefs instead of doing their mitzvah observances and their belief in one God, a monotheistic God. Against all odds, a small band of faithful but poorly armed Jews led by Judah the Maccabee defeated one of the mightiest armies on earth at the time, drove the Greeks from the land, reclaimed the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, and rededicated it for the service of God. When they sought to light the temple's menorah, the 7-branched candelabrum with the candle in the middle, they found only a single container of olive oil that had escaped contamination by the Greeks. Miraculously, somehow, they lit the menorah with this one candle and this tiny bit of oil, olive oil. The one-day supply lasted for 8 days until new oil could be prepared under the conditions of ritual purity. For us to understand this, it's been said that this tiny bit of oil lasting for 8 days is like if your cell phone is on 10% power and it lasts for a full week before you have to recharge it. To commemorate and publicize these miracles and this event, the sages instituted the festival of Hanukkah. I'd like to invite Myrna to come up at this time, and she has a personal story that she would like to share with her own memory and experience with Hanukkah. Not the personal story of her remembering this happening. That's not what I was trying to mean at all. Come on up. There you go.
Shalom. Shalom, Chaverim. Hello, friends. We hear a lot about the Festival of Lights, and that's what we hear about Hanukkah, but I'm going to talk about something different. So I feel that today we're in a very difficult period of time in our country, in our world, and it's really a troubled spot. I feel it personally. And people, Jewish people are targeted, as Dan said, and I know what that targeting feels like, and the targeting of all minority peoples, and they're not actually minority people of color, or actually of the global majority, but we are all being targeted in a very, very special way. And as many of you know who know me, I am a social activist, and I've been involved in this for, I don't want to tell you how many years, but it's probably more than 70 years I've been involved in this kind of activity. But with this sadness about our world comes almost a despair with me, and it might be resonating with you, and this discouragement and this feeling of you can't fight City Hall, and what's the point of it, and why vote? You know, this has really been a sort of underground feeling for many, many generations, and I think it's very, very prominent today. And so what has this got to do with Hanukkah? Because to me, Hanukkah is a holiday of hope. And it's really critical that we think of this. It's critical for me, I am really a secular Jew, and I grew up in a secular Jewish, but very much aware that I was Jewish, and I grew up in that kind of a family. But it's really important for me to look upon Hanukkah, because a small band of fighters who were fighting really against oppression won. They won the battle. And for me, it's hopeful that we can win. If we fight, we can win. And that's truly what Hanukkah means, and why I am so faithful about celebrating this particular holiday. Thanks.
At the heart of the festival of Hanukkah is the nightly menorah lighting. The menorah, you can see several of them on the right or the left, holds 9 candles, one of which is the shamash, the attendant, which is used to kindle the other 8 lights. On the first night, the first candle is lit. On the second night, the first and second candle. On the third night, the first, second, and third, and so on. Each additional flame for each additional night. And by the 8th night of Hanukkah, all lights are illuminated. Special blessings are recited, often to a traditional melody of some type, before the menorah is lit, and the traditional songs are sung afterwards. A menorah is lit in every household, or even by each individual within households in some families, and placed in a doorway or a window for all to see. The menorah is also lit in synagogues and other public places. In recent years, thousands of jumbo menorahs have cropped up in front of city halls and legislative buildings around the country and around the world to celebrate Hanukkah. There's a special Hallel prayer recited daily and a special daily prayer. Grace after meals, to praise and to give thanksgiving to God for delivering the strong into the hands of the weak, the many into the hands of the few, the wicked into the hands of the righteous, as one of these prayers goes. In today's consumer-driven society, people tend to place great importance on giving Hanukkah gifts. However, the tradition is actually to give a Hanukkah gelt, the gift of money, to children. In addition to rewarding positive behavior and devotion to the Torah study, the cash gifts give children the opportunity to give to charity. That's the purpose of gelt. It's not for the children to keep and to spend. It's to give away. This has spawned the phenomenon of foil-covered chocolate gelt, as some of you may have seen more recently. According to the Talmud, one of Judaism's most central texts, Judah Maccabee and the other Jews who took part in the rededication of the Second Temple witnessed what they believed to be a miracle. Even though there was only enough untainted olive oil to keep the menorah's candles burning for a single day, the flames continued flickering for 8 nights, leaving them time to find a fresh supply. This wondrous event inspired the Jewish sages to proclaim a yearly 8-day festival. The first book of Maccabees tells a bit of a different version of the story, describing an 8-day celebration that followed the rededication, but it makes no reference to the miracle of the oil for whatever reason. There are other more modern interpretations of the Hanukkah story. Some modern scholars refer to a radically different interpretation of Hanukkah. In their view, Jerusalem under Antiochus IV had erupted into civil war between 2 camps of Jews, those who had assimilated into the dominant Greek culture of the time and surrounded them. They adopted Greek and Syrian customs, and then on the other side were those who were determined to impose Jewish laws and traditions, even if by force. The traditionalists won out in the end, with the Hasmonean dynasty led by Judah Maccabee's brother and his descendants wresting control of the land of Israel from the Seleucids and maintaining an independent Jewish kingdom for more than a century. There are hundreds and hundreds of Hanukkah stories relating a variety of personal experiences around the celebration, much like what we heard from Myrna a few moments ago. This is one of the favorites that I found this week as I was researching for the story. This is a Jewish child's Hanukkah story. It's about a little boy named Joshi. Joshi was only 10 years old, and although his father was in fact a rabbi, Joshi did not attend the very exclusive private Orthodox Jewish school that his siblings went to. Joshi was born with special needs, and he needed a school, a public school, with highly trained specialty staff. One frosty morning in December, the children from Joshi's class were led to a bus and taken with their teachers to the downtown area filled with holiday lights and holiday festivities. The children looked in wonder at the crowds of shoppers passing by, the long lines of honking cars impatiently waiting for pedestrians, blocking the winter sun. After making sure that every child was accounted for, the teachers led the group down the street. Their goal was to show the children the holiday spirit, the season's displays, and the intricately decorated shop windows. They marveled at the lights and the decorations that commemorated Christmas. As the children oohed and awed looking around at the wonderful lights and decorations, Joshie remained silent. He stood on the periphery, somehow knowing instinctively that he would not find anything there familiar in those tinsel-framed windows that was special to him. The little group continued on their way, most of the children chattering excitedly. A teacher noticed that Joshie was uncharacteristically quiet and fell in step with him. "Joshie, don't you like seeing the holiday decorations too?" "Holiday?" Joshie said, looking confused. After a moment of silence, he shook his head and he said, "No, this doesn't look like my holiday." The teacher had no answer to give and walked silently alongside Joshie, her heart going out to this little boy. The group turned the corner and found themselves at an edge of a large plaza. Smiles lit up the little faces of the children as they pointed to the objects that all were drawn to, the enormous fir tree that was decorated with hundreds of yards of shiny tinsel. All eyes were marveling at this, all eyes except one pair, those of little Joshie. Little Joshie became enamored by what he saw just to the right of the gigantic fir tree, a giant menorah. A smile lit up his face as he pointed to the familiar object, and he cried out, "Look, that's mine!" When Joshie's father heard what happened on the excursion, he found a deep message in his son's words. He said, "Today there are many Jews who are religiously challenged, and they don't know much about their heritage. But when they see a public menorah, something within them lights up, no matter how religious or how secular they may be. They light up with Jewish pride, and they feel it. They know that's mine." This is a true story related by Rabbi Moshe Sholevek in an article published in the Chicago Jewish Image years ago. So what do we, those of us who are not Jewish, do with Hanukkah? Why does it matter? I do find several important lessons in the story of Hanukkah, in the history of Hanukkah, in the story and the history of the Jewish people. First of all, I find the lesson that we should never be afraid to stand up for what's right. Judah Maccabee and his band faced daunting odds, impossible odds, but that didn't stop them. With a prayer on their lips and faith in their hearts, they entered the battle of their lives. And through perseverance and dedication, they won. And as Myrna said, we can do the same. We can fight City Hall. Secondly, believe that what you have is good enough. A single flame and a little oil was enough during that time. What you have is also enough. That little bit of oil is commemorated during Hanukkah by eating fried foods. That's the purpose. You have fried foods. Latkes, is that what they're called? Latkes?
Donuts stuffed up, filled donuts.
But what did you say? Souf ganios. Ganios. See, I try to say words that look intelligent, and this is what happens. Thirdly, a little light goes a long way. The Hanukkah candles are lit when dusk is falling. Perched in the doorway or at the windowsill, they serve as a beacon for the darkening streets and the darkening rooms. No matter how dark it is outside or wherever you are, one little candle of goodness can transform the darkness into a brightly lit room. The next lesson I see is taking it to the streets. Hanukkah is unique in that its primary mitzvah, celebration, is observed in public. Hanukkah teaches us to shine outwards into our surroundings. That is true regardless of our religious traditions or lack thereof. And finally, don't be ashamed to perform mitzvahs, celebrations. Even if you feel different, rather be like a menorah. Proudly exclaim, the radiant uniqueness that you have for all of us to see. The Jewish way calls upon every human quality and every skill known to humanity. The past culture demanded fortitude and long-suffering, tolerating powerlessness and persecution without internalizing that difficult struggle. The present culture demands active responsibility, handling affluence, acceptance, and power without absolutizing them. The battle of Hanukkah is being fought again and again, although not in military terms in our current culture, but through creating family ties, competing educationally, communicating values and messages, holding and deepening loyalties. Pessimists and assimilationists have more than once informed the Jews that there is no more oil left to burn. As long as Hanukkah is studied and remembered, Jews will not surrender to the night. The proper response for all of us in the face of adversity, as Hanukkah teaches, is not to curse the darkness, but to light a candle to celebrate the hope of the light. I invite you to sing hymn number 118, appropriately, This Little Light of Mine. And please feel free to hold your finger up for the whole song, okay? So stand if you'd like to sing hymn number 118, This Little Light of Mine. With the service auction coming up on February 8th, we need to get serious about gathering donations. Now, well, more than half of the congregation is here all year round. As you're considering, think about things that you can do all through the year. Services and meals don't have to be planned just from February to the end of high season. There's lots of people who would enjoy having things going on all year long. Also think of local businesses you frequent and ask for gift certificates, auctionable items, merchandise, or ads for the auction book. Remind them that over 200 people will see that book and that they are local. You should have found instructions for reminding you how to use the uufcc.net website to make reservations, to put your donations in, and to find out any other information about the auction. This year, we're going to do things a little bit differently. You will need a reservation, but not a ticket. So we're not going to ask you for money up front. But we would like a reservation so that we know how many people are coming to plan for. Dinner will be provided, and you will be able to make donations.
Other items, the Peace River Pride Fest will be Saturday, January 18th at Lashley Park from noon to 5. All are welcome. Anyone wishing to volunteer, please see John Lee for details. Please sign up in the Fellowship Hall for meatless meal on Saturday, December 28th. Bring a meatless dish to share and your own table service. The meal will be followed by the showing of a movie. You know that the last day you've heard about so much about, well, it's here. If you don't see Helen today, after the service, you will not have a chance to walk with the cool people who sport the stylish t-shirt, exclusive for you, UFCC. Some always wait for the last minute. Now's the time. Closing words for today are by James Morrison. Within each of our hearts there is a most glorious light. Go forth and let it spark the help you. Okay, we're going to try this again. Go forth and let its spark help you understand what troubles both you and others. Okay, this is not my usual, but we're going to start this from the very beginning. Within each of our hearts there is a most glorious light. Go forth and let its spark help you understand what troubles both you and others. Go forth and let its light of reason be a guide to your decisions. Go forth and let its ray of hope to those in need of help in both body and spirit, that they may find healing. Go forth and fan the flames of passion to help heal our world. Go forth and spread the warm glow of love, pushing back the darkness of the world. Go forth and share your glorious light with the world. We will now extinguish the chalice, but not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. May those ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts until we are together again.
As we wrap things up this morning, it's certainly been a wonderful service, and we've learned a lot and had some great experiences. But our week is not near over. We have several other important events coming up this week. We have a Christmas Eve service on Tuesday, starting with music at 5 o'clock. Is this a sing-along, or is you guys, the choir singing, or what are we doing? It's a happening. It's an event with a capital E. It's music-y, though, and that's the important thing. So come at 5 for that. We invite you to stay at 5:30 for the Christmas Eve service, and I'm super excited about that because Tess, my wife, will be our worship associate for that, and it's a special event that she and I really enjoy doing each year, and that will include communion because it is a Christian Christmas Eve service, because there's no other type of Christmas Eve service. But it's UU communion. So if you have a fear of communion, if you grew up in a Christian tradition and that kind of scares you, or if you don't know what that is, we will explain how we've UU'd the communion and made it all about family. And I think that you'll enjoy it. So we invite you to come for that. And then on Christmas Day at noon, we have our annual holiday dinner. We have over 50 people signed up to come. I'm thinking, maybe a dozen or 15. That would be a pretty nice turnout. So if you're coming, we do ask that you bring some food to share, and we're going to have plenty of side dishes, and we're never short on desserts. So if you have a vegan dish or some meat that you'd like to bring, we certainly invite you to do that. I'm really looking forward to that as well. So our week is not nearly done, and next Sunday, as we wrap up our observance of various holidays and celebrations, we're going to be learning more about Kwanzaa, so that should be a really wonderful time as well. Regardless of what you're doing in the coming week, as you travel and spend time with those you love, even if those you love can be difficult for you, remember to be a blessing to everyone you meet. And now let's share in our community benediction. We invite you to rise and body your spirit as we sing hymn number 1057, Go Lift It Up, the words you'll find in the order of service. Please rise and body your spirit as we sing. Thank you for being here. Please stay for social hour.